You can't see it or smell it, but radon could kill you.
It's invisible, it's radioactive, it's the second leading cause of lung cancer. But the map that determines where it is tested for in Florida is 3 decades old. NBC2 investigator Rachel Polanski questions why.
You probably think about radon testing in homes up north, the kind that have basements. But according to the Florida Department of Health, 1 in 5 homes tested for radon in Florida has elevated levels.
This is one of my traditions. I made Christmas stockings for all 3 of my children.
This Cape Coral grandmother,
It's so rewarding when you're finished.
believes the best gifts are homemade.
And then you have a keepsake forever.
That's why Melissa Krause is cross-stitching this Christmas gift for her granddaughter, Lillian.
My mother was a sewing teacher, so I was kind of wired to do this.
But it's taking her longer to sew than it used to
I've developed a tremor in my right hand that makes it hard.
because she's battling stage 4 lung cancer.
The very first thing I said was, how can I have lung cancer? I never ever smoked.
There's no way to prove what caused the tumor on Krause's lung, and it's the same for millions of people battling the disease. But the CDC says that the #1 cause of lung cancer in non-smokers is exposure to radon gas that can enter homes or schools from soil or building materials and seep through cracks and openings in the foundation.
Radon is a radioactive gas. It's naturally occurring. It's colorless, odorless, tasteless.
Dr. Matthew Shabath, an epidemiologist at Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa, is passionate about radon testing.
The data shows unequivocally there are pockets throughout the state of Florida in any given county, even those low-risk counties, where you can find a given building or given room within a building where you have very high levels of radon.
The Environmental Protection Agency recommends that all Florida homes get tested for radon, but the state does not require it. And some say that's because of this 30-year-old map.
So that's why people don't think there's a big radon problem. They're looking at those maps that are 30 years old.
Gene Yakabachi owns a radon mitigation company in Naples, and he says he's alarmed that people are relying on information that's 3 decades old to make an important decision.
Some people might say you have a dog in this fight because you work in radon mitigation. Why would you say people should trust what you're saying?
I don't. I mean, they should call up the state and confirm information. Even when we provide quotes, I tell people, don't believe what contractors tell you. You know, call around, back up the information you're getting.
The Florida Department of Health told me that in the last 10 years, states have asked the EPA to revise their map. However, due to limited funding, EPA has not been able to do so. The EPA told me this map is not intended to be used to determine if a home in a given zone should be tested for radon, and all homes should be tested regardless of geographic location. And buying a radon test at a home improvement store is cheap. I found this one for $15. Calling in a professional to test will run you $150 to $200. But mitigation and actually fixing the problem can cost you thousands.
Usually anywhere from about $1,500 up to $15,000, $16,000, depending on the size of the home and the condominium.
But it's a price Melissa Krause would have happily paid.
It seems to me a no-brainer that they should be tested.
If it meant she might have more time
My children all cherish theirs.
crafting gifts for her grandkids.
Hopefully my grandchildren will as well.
Now, it's not just private homes that aren't being tested for radon. I uncovered that many public and private schools in Southwest Florida also have not tested in more than 20 years. I'm working on that part of the story for you tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. For the NBC2 Investigators, I'm Rachel Polanski.
An invisible threat puts your family's health in danger. Last night, the NBC2 investigators told you about radon, the radioactive gas that's often not tested for in Florida.
Tonight, we're looking at schools. It is federally recommended that Florida schools test for radon every 5 years. NBC2 investigator Rachel Polanski uncovers that is not happening in Southwest Florida.
When this North Fort Myers dad drops his daughter off at school,
My daughter's name is Jada.
he worries about how she'll do in class.
She likes reading.
He's never worried about her health until today.
And if there's something that could be seeping through the floor or something somewhere, they should at least check for it once a year.
We told Lee Grooms about radon, the radioactive gas that can enter homes or schools from soil or building materials and seep through cracks and openings in the foundation. It's colorless, odorless, tasteless, and the CDC says it's the #1 cause of lung cancer among non-smokers. Jada Grooms' school, Bayshore Elementary, hasn't tested for radon since 1997.
It's kind of scary to think she's here all day while I'm working and she could be breathing something in, you know.
The NBC2 investigators pulled records from the Florida Department of Health dating back to 1994. And out of the 83 public and private schools that have been tested for radon in Lee County, 64 of them, or 77%, have not been tested since 1996. Out of the 42 that have been tested in Collier County, 37 or 88% of them have not been tested since 1996. And the schools are not doing anything wrong, because mandatory radon testing is not required in either county.
To me, as a public health expert, that's frightening.
Dr. Matthew Shabath, an epidemiologist at Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa, was shocked when we told him about the lack of radon testing taking place in Southwest Florida schools.
The data shows unequivocally there are pockets throughout the state of Florida in any given county, even those low-risk counties, where you can find a given building or a given room within a building where you have very high levels of radon.
And he says this is not a one-time measurement. Just because a classroom tested low for radon 20 years ago does not mean that it will test low today. And that goes both ways. A classroom that once tested high for radon could show low levels today.
It's like a flowing river where it can ebb and flow, and it's something that requires constant measurements over time.
Now, Charlotte County does have to test its schools for radon because of where it's located on this Florida radon protection map, but it's only required in brand new schools. I asked Charlotte County Public School spokesperson Mike Riley if he thinks that all schools should be tested.
We rely upon the experts at the State Department of Education and the state of Florida. If they feel that that's the correct amount of time for us, that's what we're doing.
So what happens if schools do find elevated levels of radon? According to the Florida statute, mitigation is recommended, but the state does not require any action.
The last testing we've done are the two newest schools that we've built.
Public records confirm that radon tests were performed at Lemon Bay High School in 2016 and Meadow Park Elementary in 2018. Both schools had low levels of radon.
So what determines a low or high level of radon? The gas is measured in picocuries per liter, and levels of 4 or more is considered hazardous. Since 1994, the NBC2 investigators found 23 schools in Southwest Florida that had classrooms with radon levels over 4 picocuries. In Charlotte County, we found one classroom that hit 38 and another that hit 48. Is this a legitimate concern?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it goes back to the analogy. Would you fill a room with cigarette smoke and let your kids sit in there?
Lee Groom says he wouldn't.
I don't let my kid ride in the car with someone who smokes.
And now he wants some answers from his school district and his state lawmakers.
I would definitely like to know that somebody's checking into it.
Neither the Lee nor Collier County School District agreed to participate in our story. Now, I've also reached out to several lawmakers, and so far, only State Senator Kathleen Passidomo has told me that she's looking into these issues. You can see the last time that your child's school tested for radon and what those levels were at NBC2.com. For the NBC2 Investigators Tonight, I'm Rachel Polanski.
A Southwest Florida lawmaker is calling for more radon testing in schools after an NBC2 investigation.
We told you last week that radon, an invisible radioactive gas, is not often tested in Southwest Florida schools, even though it's federally recommended. Now NBC2 investigator Rachel Polanski takes her findings to lawmakers.
That's scary.
Both parents,
I would like to know why we're not testing for it.
And students.
That's crazy because that was so long ago.
Were stunned.
I think that it should be tested for again.
When we told them that most Southwest Florida schools are not testing for radon, a colorless, odorless, tasteless radioactive gas that the CDC says is the #1 cause of lung cancer among non-smokers.
It's kind of scary to think she's here all day while I'm working and she could be breathing something in, you know.
When the NBC2 investigators pulled records from the Florida Department of Health, we found that nearly 80% of public and private schools in Lee and Collier counties have not tested for radon since 1996. And they don't have to test because of where they're located on this Florida radon protection map. Charlotte County is required to test, but only in brand new schools. And if elevated radon levels are found, mitigation is not required.
To me, as a public health expert, that's frightening.
And that's not just one doctor's opinion. The EPA recommends that all schools nationwide be tested for radon. Several states like Rhode Island, Washington, D.C., Virginia, West Virginia, Colorado, and Oregon already require testing in schools. And if that testing reveals elevated radon levels, Rhode Island, Washington, D.C., and West Virginia also require mitigation. But because Florida law fails to mandate that testing, the NBC2 investigators found that most schools aren't doing it.
Definitely want to explore the idea of doing more frequent testing.
State Representative Heather Fitzenhagen says she didn't know that testing wasn't taking place in schools until she watched our reports.
I was surprised. Again, I didn't know to the degree that radon might be present, nor did I know the degree to which radon was a health risk.
Now I emailed both Lee and Collier County school districts, as well as every school board member, asking why they're not regularly testing for radon. 2 school board members talked with me off camera, but no one would agree to an interview. Charlotte County School spokesperson Mike Riley would say this.
I want to emphasize that, we follow whatever the law and what comes down from the state. We always follow the Florida statute.
So I shared Riley's views with Representative Fitzenhagen, and I asked her if she has any plans to try and amend state law to require radon testing in schools.
I would urge schools strongly to test. But one of the issues that we face as state lawmakers is whether we should be stepping in to the school's territory and sending down an unfunded mandate for yet something else that the school needs to do. So I'm very sensitive about that, but it seems common sense to me that the school would want to make sure the kids are safe and take that step to test.
Now, calling in a professional to test for radon typically costs $150 to $200 per test. If elevated radon levels are found, mitigation can cost thousands of dollars. But it's a price that these students say
it shouldn't just be let go.
Is worth every penny.
Because it's just safer for everyone that goes to school, works there, attends it.
Representative Fitzenhagen tells me that she will be talking with the Lee County School District and school board over the next few weeks. If you want to see radon testing in your children's schools, email your lawmakers and email your school board members. I have their email addresses posted for you at NBC2.com. For the NBC2 Investigators Tonight, I'm Rachel Polanski.